This is about a poor baby elephant that fell victim to a wire snare set by cruel hunters, resulting in its trunk being constricted by a thin piece of wire that cinched deeply into it. The poor elephant had been seen wandering in the border of the village for a few days. The villagers were deeply saddened with the sight of this young elephant with an impaired trunk. It's believed that the elephant has been ensnared by a hunter's trap. These type of snares are set by the hunters for the purpose of bushmeat hunting, targeting smaller animals like wild boars and rabbits. But these snares often maim or even kill non-targeted animals such as elephants. This poor elephant has managed to pull himself from the anchorage of the snare, but unfortunately when the elephant walked over the trap, the cable wire noose tightened around its trunk, and the encircling part of the snare trap remains attached to it. By the look of it, it's believed that this elephant must have been living a few months bearing this piece of wire wrapped deeply into its trunk. The trunk is the most vital organ for the survival of an elephant. The trunk is an elephant's most versatile tool used for breathing, smelling, touching, grasping, and producing sound. It's probably the most amazing body part of this gentle giant. But sadly, this elephant has experienced a significant impairment in the proper functioning of its crucial organ. This would have affected its ability to intake food, causing it to starve and lack physical energy. After living with this painful condition in the forest for a long time, feeding on low-lying branches and grasses with difficulty, finally, when it can no longer survive in the forest, this poor animal would have come to the vicinity of humans, seeking relief. The villagers willingly offered food for the elephant with deep compassion. At the same time, they took action to inform the wildlife office to save the life of this elephant. The villagers have offered easy digestive food to the elephant, like banana stems and fruits. The elephant is taking great effort to eat the food that has been offered to him. It's pretty painful to watch the dreadful damage caused to this elephant just by a thin piece of wire. The team of wildlife officers and veterinarians have arrived at the location on the call of the villagers. The officers were searching for the elephant to sedate him. Soon, they would locate the elephant, and without wasting any time, they darted the tranquilizer gun. As the dart hits the elephant's body, he ran towards the forest. Finally, he reclined on the ground, losing consciousness. The place where the elephant reclined in the forest was a sloppy land congested with thick underground, so it wasn't easy for the officers to perform their job, and they have to take quick action, because it's not wise to keep a weak animal under sedation for a long period of time. Their first task was to unwind the piece of wire wrapped around the trunk, using a wire cutter. Due to the sloppy nature of the land, the operation of removing the piece of snared wire was really challenging. The person who was doing the videography, too, had to participate in the removal process, so we regret that we couldn't capture the scene of unwinding the snare. The officers used their strength and sharpness of wire cutter to unwind the snare. Thereby, they could release the elephant from its long-term suffering. Since the wire snare has cinched deeply into the trunk, that area has to be treated to avoid infection through the deep cut caused by the wire snare. The encircling piece of wire has caused a gaping hole in the trunk as well. Since this is not a fresh wound, and accident has happened a long time ago, the gaping hole has dried up and cannot be sutured to generate new tissue. So the only thing that can be done is to prevent the future infection through the entrapped area of the trunk and help the elephant survive the rest of his life with a deformed trunk. They start injecting antibiotics and painkillers to the elephant intramuscularly. These medicines will help fight infection, boost the immunity, and alleviate the pain, which will bring relief to the animal in a short period of time. The injured area of the trunk was thoroughly sprayed with antiseptic spray to halt further infection. The antiseptic will clean the area, kill bacteria, and form a protective layer against microbes. Moving on to the next part of the treatment, they were preparing to administer saline to the elephant and tried to attach the saline catheter. Unexpectedly, the elephant started flapping its ear and struggling, showing signs that the sedation was starting to wear off. No need to explain the risk that these brave officers are taking. Some other officers started chopping off the tree branches to make more space for the animal and the veterinarians. Now it's getting dark everywhere, but the officers are working diligently to save the elephant. Antiseptic spray was sprayed on the infection sites to prevent any form of infection to the elephant. It was night when the officers finally finished their tasks. They provided the necessary medication and long-term protection through long-acting antibiotics to enable the elephant to survive the rest of his life. He was then freed from his long-term suffering and painful constriction. However, they couldn't reconstruct the gaping hole in its trunk as it was discovered too late. Nevertheless, the elephant can now live without pain and is able to grasp food to a certain extent. After the treatment, the elephant was permitted to remain in its native forest. After a few days, the elephant was observed grazing along the forest border. A forest range officer was assigned to monitor its condition and report to wildlife officers for further treatments if necessary. They plan to observe the elephant's condition for a week, and they intend to transfer it to a rehabilitation center if it's determined that it cannot survive in the forest.